Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome to Care Across Cultures. I'm your host Mirban Hussain. You are listening to us on Link FM 96.7. Welcome to today's programme. Grief is something that touches every one of us at some point, but no two people experience it exactly the same way. Today with my guest we'll be exploring how Rotherham Hospice supports, helps families navigate loss, from children through to adults. Joining me today are two of my wonderful colleagues who I will be introducing in a short while. As always, this is your programme too. If you have a question or you want to join the conversation, please call us on 0114 261 8181. Or you can always text us on WhatsApp 07939 849 339. Before we start, here's a disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on the programme belong to me and my guests, and not necessarily those of Link FM or of the organisations that we represent. Hello and good morning, both of you.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Very
Fantastic.
well, thank you.
A little bit nervous?
Very.
Some of you? Okay. Right. So, just to break the nerves, Lisa, we'll start with you. Welcome to the show, Lisa. Before we start, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my name's Lisa Worrall and I manage or coordinate the Sunbeams service. So this service is for children and young adults from 3 right through to age 17. So we provide group support or individual support for that age group.
Thank you so much. And how long have you been working at Rotherham Hospice?
4 years this year.
4
at Rotherham
years.
Hospice,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Carolyn,
Yes, good morning.
good morning and thank you for turning up today. I've been trying to get both of you on the programme for a while, but
You
I
have.
think it's work, isn't it? We just don't have the time.
No, it's busy, but we managed to sort
We
of
managed.
schedule it in a month ago, didn't we?
But thank you so
yeah.
much for coming.
Yeah.
So, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, I'm Carolyn Connor and I'm the counselling manager at Rotherham Hospice. The counselling team that I manage provide one-to-one bereavement support and counselling and group sessions as well. There are 4 counsellors, 2 part-time and 2 full-time, and then myself part-time. I'm also the family counsellor there, so I support families, adults and children, and also patients that might be on the ward requesting someone to talk to.
Okay, so tell me what counselling is, because some of our listeners may not understand what that actually means.
Of course. Counselling isn't advice giving. Counselling is creating a safe space for someone to come and talk about what they really need to talk about. It's confidential, so people tend to really open up about their inner feelings. The discussions aren't all about grief, because sometimes it's about relationships, work-related stuff, anything really. But what we do is just help them. We reflect back as counsellors actually what they've said, and that's how it works, because we listen and understand, and most people don't have that in their own lives, so they find it a very unique space, and they start to make their own minds up and move at their pace. So we never tell them what to do, but they come and cry, really offload, and it's so useful.
Thank you so much. So, what is often weighing most heavily on people's mind when they first come to see you? I don't know whether that's something that you could answer in a team theme or topic.
I think I can really, yeah. I think often People might be feeling angry at the loss, guilty sometimes, which is a stage of grief. But weighing most on the minds, I think, in the initial session is they want to talk about the person that they've lost, the relationship that they had with them, and often the point of diagnosis and prognosis. So there's often a heavy story to tell about what they went through and what the loved one went through. And it's important for us as counsellors to really understand where they were and what they went through. So that's usually weighing more heavily in the first session or two.
So am I right in understanding that you don't just support people with counselling after the loss, but can you sort of also support them when they've been sort of first diagnosed?
Yes, of course we can do that. And I often find that the grieving process afterwards is more successful if they've had some pre-bereavement support, because they can be a little bit more prepared for the death.
Right.
And it encourages them to have important conversations with the family member while they've still got time.
So you mentioned anger. And
Yeah.
So what other sort of emotions have you sort of come across people have expressed?
Often low mood.
Low mood.
Yeah. What we call bargaining as well.
Okay, what's bargaining?
Bargaining, right. You might, after someone's died, we might hear a person say, if only I'd got him to the doctors early enough. If only I'd have encouraged, I'd have gone with him. So it's the what ifs really, and if onlys. So it's how someone processes the grief in the brain, you know.
Right.
What if I should have noticed. If I noticed, he might still be alive now. So that's what we call bargaining.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So Lisa, do you recognise some of the same sort of emotions in children, even if they sort of express them differently?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we use a pictorial example of a roller coaster, and we have that up in the space where we do our sessions. And for children coming to see us, they don't understand why they're feeling the way they're feeling. So they can feel sort of 6 different emotions all in one day.
Right.
You know, they can feel angry, they can feel upset, they can feel frustrated, they can feel guilty, and it cannot literally be all in one day. So we normalise that and we say that's absolutely fine to feel like that, that's normal, that's how a person grieves. You know, and then we can do activities and so on that help them understand those emotions.
Right. Just to help our audience understand that, because Rotherham Hospice is an adult hospice, but the children that you support, who are they?
So the children that I mainly see are children who have lost loved ones through the hospice.
Okay.
So it could be a grandparent, it could be a parent, it could be a brother or a sister, auntie, uncle. So the majority of people that I support are linked to the hospice.
And what sort of age group do they start from that you start supporting them?
So we really start from 3. So we'll do play therapy with 3 and 4 year olds.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that young?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because even though they're that young, they understand that something has happened, and they understand that their loved one is no longer with them. So, you know, and quite often a 3 or 4 year old thinks that they can go and visit that loved one. They don't understand that death is final. So I do a lot of work, you know, sort of helping them to understand that through art therapy and so on.
Okay, thank you so much. Many adults worry about grieving properly, don't they? Carolyn, is that something that you hear?
All the time, yes. I hear, is this normal? Am I going mad? A real common one is as well, say 3 months after the funeral, why am I not feeling better by now?
Okay.
And it's a massive misconception, because really grief is just hitting home at that time.
Okay.
It's becoming real because people go into shock, denial, disbelief at first. So it takes a measure of time for it to become real, you know, in their minds that that person's not coming back through the door. I can't give you any time on grief, but generally we do see people start to rebuild after a couple of years, but that isn't the same for everyone.
No.
No.
I suppose it does depend on what sort of relationship they've had or not had.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've also come across people who've not had a relationship for many, many years, and then all of a sudden this person has died, and it sort of hit them that, what have we done for the past 10 years because we've not even spoken to each other? And then all of that sort of the guilt and all of that. Have you had something like that that's come through to you as well?
Yeah, very much so, and it can cause real complexity in grief when the relationship hasn't been very good, because you can't go back and mend it then, can you?
No.
So that can put another layer on the grief. So it's not always people that have had a super loving relationship that come.
No.
Yeah.
And Lisa, does that same kind of pressure, do you see that in children as well?
I think for the children, they learn to grieve from the people around them.
Okay.
So a lot of misconception is from parents is that they can't cry in front of the children because they don't want to upset them.
Right.
But in actual fact, that's probably the best thing that they could do, because then the children understand that crying is normal and crying is part of the grieving process. So quite often, that's one of the issues, the worries that parents have when they come to me, but also from the children. They think they're doing something wrong if they're crying all the time because they don't see mum and dad cry. So, you know, it's all part of it. It's all part of the grieving process. So crying in front of a child is absolutely the thing to do.
Yeah.
Show them that you're grieving. Show them that it's part of that process.
Have you got, without mentioning any names or anything like that, but an example of a person that you helped a child to get over something? And I'm just wanting that so that I know that this is something that some of my audience may not have come across.
I suppose that, I mean, sort of just off the top of my head, you know, when I talked about play therapy, we had a young girl, and she just didn't understand what death meant. So, you know, we did lots of work in our beautiful hospice garden, actually, looking for things that are living and things that have died, and sort of looking at the differences, and sort of understanding that in nature you have things that die, you know, and that not to be scared of it, and so on. You know, we did lots of work around, she believed that her grandma was in heaven, and, you know, we talked about what she felt that was like, and so on, and it really did help her actually to understand it. And her behaviour in her parents, where she was having lots of tantrums, and the tantrums steadily got less and less and less because she was understanding what had gone on. So that frustration, that anger, that misunderstanding had gone.
That was a cry for help, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Because that's what, you know, children don't understand.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
even adults don't understand.
Well,
We
yeah,
do all kinds
exactly.
of things, don't we?
Yeah.
I'm just interested now that because you mentioned heaven. So have you seen a big difference between, and the reason I ask this is because Rotherham is, I think, about 49% no faith. Have you seen a difference between how that affects faith and no faith affects, or is it?
I think families have different things that they look for. We do a session about symbols and comforting signs that families have, and we always say that each family is different. Each family believes something slightly different. It could be that they look for robins in a garden, and they believe that a robin close by is a loved one that's near. Could be a butterfly, could be a white feather that people believe is an angel's feather. They could use heaven and say they've gone to heaven. Some say they've gone to be a star in the sky. You know, it just varies from family to family, and what we say is that whatever their family believes, and if it gives comfort, then you know, that's a good thing.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Carolyn, was there anything that Lisa said that resonates with you in terms of religion and non-religion?
Yes, yeah, I think, to follow on from that, really, if people do have a religion, often their faith helps them through the grief, because then they have a belief that they're going to see the loved one. Well, they often have that belief that they're going to see the loved one again one day. And if people really believe that, it's a great comfort to them. But then some people are just very spiritual without
faith,
without
yes.
faith. And some of those believe they'll see the loved one again. We see some people that think, no, he's gone, he or she is gone, dead, that's it. And that can be a struggle. That can be a struggle for some people, being in, looking at it in a very matter-of-fact way. Children are lovely with it, aren't they, Lisa? Because, like you say, they're like the robins, and they like to draw what's a comfort to them.
I'm quite happy for you both have a conversation about this.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about what?
Yeah, I mean, we've had people with different religions, different, like you said, different spirituality. Different beliefs, different comforting signs that they look for, and we're happy to just, to support that really. If it's giving them comfort and it's helping them through, that's absolutely fine with us.
Amazing, thank you. So, if you just joined us, you are listening to Care Across Cultures with me, your host, Mirban Hussain. You're listening to us on Link FM 96.7. I've been talking to two wonderful colleagues from Rotherham Hospice. We're talking about grief and counselling and the support that Rotherham Hospice offers to everybody who comes to us. Now, we are talking about Rotherham Hospice, but there are hospices across the country. There will be a hospice close to wherever you live. And the key point would be that if you are going through a process of grief or loss, my understanding is that most hospices will have some form of counselling support. All you have to do is just reach out. Google their number. If you know where they are, just turn up at reception. And if you do live in Rotherham, just come and talk to us, because support is available. And you don't have to do this alone. Now, families don't all grieve the same way, which you've just mentioned. Now, people can live in the same house, experience the same loss, yet grieve in completely different ways. Okay, I'd like you to start on that, Lisa, from a children's perspective, because I'm assuming that you sort of not just support children, but maybe the parents as well, because
that's part of Carolyn's role as a family counsellor. Yeah, so quite often I'll see the children, and Carolyn will see the parent. So we work quite closely together on that, don't we?
And it works really well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. So we look after the whole family.
Okay.
And that's something that the hospice only started doing
about 3 years ago.
3 years ago, yes.
Is that a unique service that Rotherham Hospice provide, or is it sort of
I think it is fairly unique, yeah. I mean, quite a lot of hospices actually, I know you mentioned, supporting hospices. Unfortunately, not many hospices do support for children.
Right.
So we're fairly unique with that as well.
And I'm going to make you blush now, because you did win an award recently, didn't you, Lisa, for the Sunbeams?
We did, yes, that was really nice, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the award and how that sort of came about. And
so our CEO nominated us, I believe, and so the nomination was for innovation. So it was to do with exactly what I've just been saying, that our services have broadened over the last few years. So we've lowered the age that we take children, and we've highered the age that we keep them.
Okay.
And the services that we have changed quite a lot over the years. So things like teenagers, the support that we offer teenagers is quite broad now. So we can offer one-to-one services, or we have a teen drop-in where teens can come back to us and just touch base with us. Basically, we have it like a youth club, but we have myself and Carolyn and our colleague Rachel there, and they can come and they can have a chat with us. They can access the services that we put on. So we have art therapists there, we have a music therapist, we've had dog therapy, and they come to us because it's a safe space. and the feedback that we had was that they left us and then there was nothing. So there wasn't any services in school or anything. And just because they'd finished the number of sessions with us doesn't mean to say that their grief stopped.
Exactly. So have you got fixed sessions that you give them, or is it sort of a...
So we're quite flexible. So we have a rough sort of 8 to 10,
Right.
I would say. But depending on the case, that might be a little bit longer,
Okay.
particularly if we have had them for pre-bereavement. We tend to have them with us for a bit longer then. But we have to obviously have a limit somewhere, because we've now got waiting lists and so on.
Right,
So
okay.
we do have to have some kind of limit. But there wasn't anything for the teenagers after that, because secondary schools don't tend to deal with the bereavement support. You know, it's all about exams and things
Yes,
like that.
yeah.
So we have about 12 teenagers that come back to us every month, make us laugh,
Yeah,
touch base, and we give them the support that they need.
wonderful. And do you run sort of weekly, regular sort of meetings or monthly meetings?
So teenagers are once a month, and then I run a Tuesday group and a Thursday group for children between 5 and 13.
Okay.
And
And how do people get onto these groups?
so it's a referral, so they can reach out to the hospice, and they'll put people in touch with myself. We get referrals from families, we get referrals from schools, from GPs, from social care. We get them from all over.
So it's an open referral
It's
system?
an open referral
Okay.
system.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Have you had people who've parents have not been attached to the hospice in any way,
And
have you supported them?
we have. We've taken, over the years, we have taken some external referrals, and it is something that we would like to continue doing. At the minute, we have got a waiting list. So we always say that if we have the capacity to take external referrals, then we will. But unfortunately, in the moment, there is a wait list for external referrals because we've got so many hospice referrals.
Yeah.
But it's something that I really feel quite passionately about, and it's
Okay.
something that I would like to develop more in the future, because there isn't anything in Rotherham really.
That's why you got the Innovation Award.
Yeah, there's
We're so proud of
nothing
you,
else.
you know that. I know that people listening will be saying he's just harping on about Rotherham Hospice, but it's an Innovation Award, something that you know no one else does, and you know we should be rightly proud
Yeah,
of it.
definitely.
Yeah.
We are very,
Absolutely,
as a
yeah.
team, we are very proud of the service, and you know, hope that it continues to expand and develop.
So I'm going to open this question out to both of you, and I'm really asking you to start, Carolyn. That I start off by saying people can live in the same house and experience the same loss or grief, but then, you know, grieve completely in different ways. Why do you think people grieve so differently, even within the same family, based on the experience that you've had?
Well, many reasons really, but people grieve differently, or complex grief can arise from people that have had issues in their own childhood.
Right.
So if they haven't had a secure sense of belonging or secure attachments in childhood, it can hinder the grieving process. So that could take place with different family members depending on their history. So if we're looking at a family with a couple of kids and mum's died and dad's there, dad or mum, if it's the other way round, might not be emotionally present for the children because he's grieving himself. So that can hinder the grief with the children, because they might feel like they've lost two parents.
Yes, yeah.
So every family loss is different and unique, and as Lisa was saying earlier, it's up to the surviving parent really to model how to grieve, to show the feelings and teach the children that it's okay to cry and share. We often find that in family units they can they call it the ripple effect, where they don't talk about the person that's died, so they sort of fall apart for a while. But families that do talk about the person that they've lost and include that family member even though they're not there anymore, and take them forward in their heads and hearts, they tend to grieve in a more healthier way.
Thank you for that. We are coming up to a short break. We will carry on that conversation about the ripple effects. I find that really interesting. Thank you for listening to Care Across Culture with me, your host Merbaan Hussain. We'll be back shortly after. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the second part of Care Across Cultures. You're listening to me, Merbaan Hussain, your host. I've been having an interesting and a wonderful conversation with my colleagues from Rotherham Hospice, Carolyn and Lisa. And before we're talking about grief, loss, what that means, and the support that's available out there. We mentioned Sunbeams, which is Rotherham Hospice's counselling support, help support for children and teenagers. And contrary to my earlier information, is that it may not be available at every hospice, because the Sunbeams team, Lisa, won a national award for this recently for innovation. But still, if you need to, still reach out to your local hospice, because they may be able to support you, or they may be able to signpost you onto somewhere else. So, Carolyn, welcome back.
Thank you.
You'd started talking about the ripple effect, which I'd not heard of before. Explain that a little bit more and just carry on.
Yeah. Well, to pick up from what I was saying before, often when families are grieving over the same person but in different ways, this can cause like a wedge in the family if they're not communicating effectively. Also, we often find, and it does happen sometimes on our inpatient unit, that family members come together shortly before the death, and if they've had any issues over the years with each other, they tend to rise up at that time, because it's an emotional time, and things are running high for them, aren't they? They're about to lose probably the head of the family, the person that was the glue to the family, where they'd all go for Sunday lunch, and they don't know what to do, and siblings can at that point can fall out. They can come together. It's not everybody, but they can fall out and lose touch with each other. So that's really sad.
It is sad, but
yes,
I think that I can talk from experience. I lost my mum 11 years ago, and that glue that you talked about, because she was born on the 1st of January. So every New Year's Eve we went to her house, all of us. And we saw in the new year and celebrated birthday and Mother's Day and all that kind of stuff as well. And because it was Mum and it was her house, everybody behaved. Everybody came, and we sort of left all our and there's usually petty jealousies and petty stuff, isn't it? That we left it at the door, and we all just sort of got together. And when Mum goes, she went, and then we found that we still sort of meet up, but we don't meet up like we used to, because some are missing. And if it was at Mum's, everybody went. There were no excuses. But now we still have these gatherings, but it's not seen as important. I can miss this one because I've got something else to do, but when it was Mum's, you didn't have anything else to do. Even if you did, you just went. So Carolyn, what do adults often tell themselves that stops them from asking for help?
Sometimes it's shame and embarrassment that they're not coping very well. They might be wanting to stay in bed all day, not looking after themselves, not eating properly. So sometimes it can be that. Also, some shame in having to have help. where counselling's quite sort of trendy these days for younger people.
Okay.
But certain generations just got on with it and suffered it maybe in silence. But now, in the world we live in, we're encouraged to talk more about how we feel, aren't we? So I think it's really important. But, you know, I've seen people in the 90s have come and asked for help. And it's absolutely wonderful.
And do you think that at the age of 90 they may not have anybody else, no friends left, no family left?
It can be a lonely.
It could be a lonely thing, and then
as well.
they could reach out, couldn't they?
Of course, yeah.
So Lisa, I know you mentioned some of this before, but because you mentioned adults perhaps should cry in front of the children, you know, to normalise it. You know, when difficult conversations are taking place in the home, what else do you think that children need from adults?
I think honesty above anything else, particularly when there's a family member that's ill. I think a lot of the confusion with children comes from misinformation.
Okay.
You know, they're trying to protect them, but in protecting them, they're missing bits of information out. And then what the child does then is they join the dots, and it's not always the right picture.
And then are we losing that sort of connection and that sort of...
because then there's that mistrust then.
Yes.
Well, you told me that they were going to be okay, and then they weren't. You know, you've got
like
that
when we
kind
say
of
that,
thing.
your granddad is a bit poorly.
Yeah, a bit poorly.
A bit poorly.
Yeah, and then obviously, you know,
And
it's a lot worse than that.
And it's a not bit poorly.
Yeah.
And when they... I've often found that, you know, with different communities, they won't even take children to the hospice or the hospital to see their grandparents or their mum and dad or whoever they are, because we sometimes get over worried about how that's going to impact on the child.
I mean, every family is different, and you know, and every circumstance is different. So, for instance, if there is someone who is really poorly, and it would be very distressing for a child to see them, you know, I do understand that. But I think when someone is ill and there's a long journey ahead, I think it's a good thing to be quite honest, particularly with prognosis, because it can be a huge shock, absolutely huge shock, if they think that they're just ill.
Yes.
You know, I've got a cold or something, and then they die. That takes a lot of processing.
But we tell that to children as well, don't we? You're a bit poorly. You're not going to school today because you're poorly. And then I suppose if they're sort of 3, 4, 5, and we're saying you're a bit poorly so you can't go to school today.
Yeah, you've got to be really clear. Yeah. You've got to be very, very clear, as honest as you feel comfortable being, because in the long run that will benefit the child. And
as you rightly said, that it's going to be different for each family depending on how
and different circumstances,
and different relationships, dynamics within the family.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Have you, Lisa, ever encouraged parents to have conversations with children that they may be avoiding?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest, that's one of the things we get called up about quite often, and occasionally I have had to go and support them with those conversations. That is something that, you know, I'm, you know, happy to do or able to do, because sometimes parents just can't, especially if it's the parent that's ill. They just find that conversation of telling their children that they're ill and that the prognosis is not good. They find that so overwhelming and so difficult. So quite often I've worked with the doctors at our hospice, and I've partnered with them, and we've gone out to the home and we've had that conversation with the children together as a group, and I've been on hand to support the children if they need it. I think sometimes parents, they think they can't do it, but with that little bit of support there, they find the strength to be able to have that conversation. I must admit, it is one of the worst parts of my job, you know, by far, but it's something that's necessary. You know, teenagers and children need to know exactly what's going on so that they can prepare.
Has there been a particularly difficult one, a challenging one that you can recall, and what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges with my job, but one in particular does stand out where I did have to go to the home, and it was a mum of 2 girls, you know, and she just couldn't find the words, you know, so we stepped in and helped with that. You almost felt like a fly on the wall of something that you really shouldn't be seeing, but it gave her strength. It gave her strength that we were there, and it's something that she had to do. So yeah, she's no longer with us, unfortunately, the lady, but we still support the girls.
Thank you for that. I'm going to move on now. One of the things that I love about this programme is hearing how different communities approach life's biggest moments. We've spoken a lot on this programme about death, dying, palliative care, cancer, life-limiting illnesses, and lots and lots. And it's called Care Across Cultures. And the reason for that is because whether culture, faith and community traditions or community networks, people draw on different strengths, don't they? What have families taught you, Carolyn, about grief that no textbook ever could?
What have families taught me? They've taught me and they've shown resilience. They've taught me, the biggest thing I can say is they've taught me how to live and value my life more.
Okay.
And, you know, and family, to me, it's all what matters. Family's the big thing, isn't it, in life? So I think that, and, you know, and I'm thinking of a couple of mums that I saw that lost their husbands quite young, with little ones, and how do you get up in the morning and do what needs to be done for the children? How do you find that strength to get them to school and then go to work? And but to be part of that as a therapist has taught me a lot, that people do recover from grief, and they don't stop grieving.
No.
But it changes and moves, and gradually they rebuild a different life without that person. And it's taught me that to have hope, because I couldn't do this job if I didn't see people find some sort of happiness again and meaning, a different meaning to the life. So hope, really.
And I like what you said about grief doesn't. Well, I don't think grief ends. I mean, it goes in stages, and my dad, God rest his soul, died 30 odd years ago. And I don't think about him every day. Okay. But there are moments in life when I get reminded, and it's all fresh and raw again. And you know, sometimes I've shed tears as well. And it's not so much that, I mean, as a Muslim, I know that, you know, we have a belief that he's gone somewhere else and that's his life, but you still miss that, you know, that relationship. Yeah. And that's 30 years ago. I wouldn't say that I'm grieving, but I do have moments of grief. You mentioned, no, I'm not going to go there yet. I want to talk about, you both work alongside people facing very difficult circumstances. And you talked about hope, didn't you? Yeah, hospice staff often seem to hope much more than many other staff that I've found, that I've worked with. Lisa, what keeps you hopeful?
That's a hard one. I think it's like Carolyn said, it's that resilience, knowing that you can go through the worst thing that could ever happen to you, but you do come through the other side. I think, I mean, you talk about the hospice staff. I mean, we often say we're probably one of the saddest officers, really, on paper,
Yes.
with the work that we do. But we often get commented on how much laughter we have in our office. And I think that's because you have to have the light with the shade. So, you know, if you've had a really difficult session for me with a child, and then I come back into the office, the worst thing that I could do is to sit there and really sort of unpick that and think about it without actually talking to someone myself. So quite often I'll talk to my colleagues in the office and then they'll help me through that. And that's what gives me hope. The fact that I've got colleagues around me that help me so that I can then help others. It sounds a bit cheesy, but
no, it's not cheesy at all.
It definitely works, you know. And we do laugh. We do laugh. Like I said, the light with the shade.
And we're not afraid to cry either, are
No,
we?
we're not. As an office, we've seen a lot of tears.
Yeah.
You know, because we're only human.
Of course we
You
are.
know, we're not robots. You can't go and work with a child who's lost a parent and it not affect you in some way. I think the moment it starts to not affect me is the moment that I probably need to change jobs.
Yeah.
You know, it does affect you. So you need help as well as, you know, to be able to get through that and to give the best support you can to the child that you're working with.
Just to sort of touch on what you said about, you know, going back to your team being one of the most sort of, what's the word that you used?
Well, on paper, we should be
on
quite,
paper,
you know, we
yes.
should be one of the saddest offices, shouldn't
Saddest.
we? You know, because of the things that we hear, and you take on so much of other people's sadness. You know, as Carolyn said earlier, they're telling you everything. They're telling you their story. You know, it could be their love story. It could be, you know, the things that they're going to miss. You know, and you take that on board. You know, so you absorb that. You know, so you need an outlet somewhere to be able to share that with people.
I think that's something that's sort of very personal to me as well, because I came to hospice. I've been here 2 years now. When I mentioned to friends and colleagues, who most are sort of medical and nursing professionals, are you going to work at a hospice? Isn't that where people go to die? And that really sort of hit me hard. I'm thinking, well, no. And when I came to Rotherham Hospice and I started work, and 2 days later I felt that I belonged. And that thing about it being a sad place, it's not a sad place at all, because and this is being borne out by everybody that comes to the hospice, all our visitors, whoever they are, and they've said it's a hug. As soon as you walk into reception, you get this massive big hug, and they can't understand why it's like this when it should be a sad place. But it's not a sad place. It's a place of life and hope. The sad part is that some people will die in a hospice, but then people die everywhere, don't they? Every day, you know, every minute of the day somebody's dying somewhere. And I'm on a personal sort of mission, is to change that perception of a hospice. It's where people go to die. No, it's hospices are places where people go to live a more comfortable, satisfied life. That's what I think. Thank you for that. I've often say that if you've met one family, you've met one family. Okay. Yes. Curiosity seems so important when supporting people, and both of you have to be curious, don't you? I mean, you know, there's that, you know, when you're getting people to share stuff with you. Okay. Can you, both of you, share a time when a family challenged some assumptions that you've held, or taught you something unexpected?
I think, I mean, you talked to me about about different cultures. I had a Romani family, 4 members of the same family who'd lost their father. And my assumption was that lots of ways that that I thought every family would grieve in a certain way, in some way. But I hadn't realised that in particularly in the Romani culture, that, for instance, everything that belonged to that person was burnt.
Oh, right.
So everything that belonged to the person that died was burnt. And things like music, there was no music for a certain period of time after the death. So some of the work that I do is around music, is around memories, is about working with things that belong to their loved one. And obviously I had to totally rethink how I was going to do my sessions, because a lot of the memory work I couldn't do because a lot of the physical things had gone. So I learned lots about their culture, but also in the way that they grieved as well, because they had to grieve a different way to, say, my family.
So how did they grieve then?
With great difficulty, to be fair, because particularly the young man, if he was now the head of the family and he wasn't allowed to cry either.
Yes.
So a lot of his difficulties in grieving was because he couldn't share that emotion. So we are encouraging to share the emotion, and he was told, no, you can't share the emotion.
No.
So it was just very small steps, just breaking things down, taking them back further than the death to times when they were happy and memories with their loved one, and lots of artwork around the father and what he looked like, and them sharing with me what he liked and what he liked doing and so on. And by talking about it gave them comfort.
I think that's a wonderful example, isn't it, of expectations and services, how we provide services, because with the best will in the world we have to provide a standardised service, don't we?
Yeah.
With some flexibility, and then you come across something like that which is, okay, what do we do now?
Yes.
But then it's about keeping the service, but then supporting people the best way that you possibly can, and that's about working with people, and you can't do that without building trust, can you?
No, exactly.
And that's the important thing, isn't it? Now we are coming close to the end of the programme. I really could have spoken to you both for another half hour, but unfortunately we don't have that time. So we're going to go into final sort of reflections. If a family is listening today and they're struggling and don't know where to turn, Carolyn, what would you want them to hear?
If they're struggling with someone that they're going to lose in the family, I think it's really important for them to get the house in order, as we call it, wills and intentions, stuff like that. Even if they're still well and they're not going anywhere yet, it's good to put things in place. Maybe where they want the children to go, where the money goes, because it's really important. And because sometimes we get people in the hospice and it's too late for them to see a solicitor or make a will. So I've certainly learnt to do that and got my house in order. Hope I'm not going anywhere for a while.
And this is the key point. It's not about that you're going somewhere, but
it's
let's
get it done while you're well.
Because death is going to happen to us all, isn't it?
It
At
is.
some point.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be ill, do you?
No.
Or have cancer or have a life-limiting illness to die. You can die at any moment. So, Lisa, anything you want to add to that message that Carolyn gave?
Just in terms of children, just talk to them, talk and listen,
and include them,
them. Yeah, definitely. And and even if your child is neurodiverse, still talk to them. Don't presume they're not going to understand. Still talk to them.
Thank you so much for that. You've been listening to Care Across Cultures with my guest today, Carolyn Connor and Lisa Worrall. What I've taken away from today is that grief may be personal, but it doesn't have to be lonely. Whether you're a child trying to make sense of loss, a parent supporting your family, or someone carrying grief that's been with you for many years, support is available. My thanks to Carolyn, Connor, Lisa, Worrall for joining me today. Thank you for listening to Care Across Cultures. I will be back next week. Allah Hafiz.